And we're back at the Frontier 2011 Investment Conference, and I'm joined by Charles Hulak from Citibank, based in Hong Kong, head of Asia Pacific Ratings Advisory Group. Thank you very much for joining us, Charles. You've been an advisor in the past to the Mongolian government. Can you tell us a bit more about this and the Mongolian environment in general?
Sure. We started visiting Mongolia in 2003 and 2004, and at that time the story was very good, and we had the privilege of working with the Bank of Mongolia and the Ministry of Finance, helping them with all three of the rating agencies for first-time ratings, Moody's, S&P, and Fitch. I think the expectation at that time, they were going for the rating so that they could launch an international bond issue, and here we are 8 years later, and they still haven't done a bond issue. I think different reasons. Of course, the financial crisis came and made them more cautious, and they've continued to be quite cautious on how they would use the proceeds of a bond and how it should be tied into the mining story and the infrastructure. So, as we heard earlier in this conference from the head of the Development Bank of Mongolia, that seems to be possibly a good use of proceeds for a sovereign bond would be to help capitalize the Development Bank. Whether or not the Development Bank also would get a credit rating of its own, I think that's something that would come, but it sounds like the government planned first to do a sovereign bond and pass the proceeds to Development Bank.
Mm. So the Development Bank's bond would be on par basically with a government bond?
That's right, yeah, it should be priced the same. So that would kind of create, again, a benchmark for the government of Mongolia for international investors. But still, it's unclear what their plan is in terms of offshore versus domestic currency.
Okay.
So we're all waiting on that. I think definitely there's a little room for improvement in terms of the communication with the financial community and banks as to what their strategy is. A lot of banks have been coming every year to Mongolia expecting that the sovereign bond was about to be announced. So I guess there's a little bit of skepticism now after 4 or 5 different kind of beauty parades have been held.
Okay. And when you're rating Mongolia, like the Mongolian government or even Mongolian companies, like what are some of the key obstacles you face? Or
yeah, I think just the data in the beginning, having the statistics and reliable data, there was some question marks on that, but that's improved tremendously. For the government, certainly their close relations with multilaterals, the strong performance under the IMF program recently, these are things that the rating agencies put a lot of weight on. So they speak to the government, but they also speak to outside parties and independent experts to get a clear view of what the government's doing. But I think the fact that you have a homogeneous society, and for a country that's in the low end of the rating scale, you have much less political instability. Social stability is very strong here, and I think all of these things would be appreciated by investors, and they can really believe the story with this kind of social and political stability, that with the mining funds finally coming in, that there should be no obstacle for Mongolia to achieve a rapid improvement in its credit rating.
So your longer-term outlook for Mongolia is stable to positive?
Definitely positive, very positive in the medium term. It's just getting over the next year where they don't have the revenues, but they're tempted to spend beforehand the riches that are coming into the country, and I think that's what the agencies are really looking at. They see the fiscal responsibility regime, which will be in place in 2013, but it's just between now and then what will happen.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Charles, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks.